Well, hello friends. This is the fire staff or mage with a rapier versus the bow video. So last week I decided that I wasn't sure, I wanted to play a kitey class, but I wanted to try out bow versus fire staff with the rapier as a secondary weapon. So this week I've been playing both, and this video is going to give my thoughts on which one I preferred. So just up front, because obviously there's different ways of playing it, I wanted a really mobile, kitey weapon set that allowed me to essentially, my goal is essentially to try to 1vx, to take on multiple opponents, whether that be in the open world or an OPR or whatever. So yeah, I often play alone, well not often, like most of the time I'm playing alone, so I wanted a weapon set that was just really able to keep me alive against groups bigger than myself, so hence the reason I wanted to go for mobility. And so yeah, this is my comparison of the bow versus the fire staff with that as the context, so and which one I prefer. So I'm going to start off with the fire staff pros and cons, then I'll go to the bow pros and cons, and then I'll give my conclusions. Now I just want to say up front that from the outset I was thinking that the bow would be better than the fire staff because essentially it does more damage, so that's what I was thinking. Okay, so one of the things I noticed right off the start with the fire staff rapier, if I say mage, that's what I mean. When I say mage, I don't mean fire staff, ice corner. But one of the things I noticed first off was the amount of burst up close that the fire staff could do, which I felt I couldn't do on the bow. So you can see in this video here, this guy's a bit of a squishy Donny because he's a bow and I think he must have low attributes, but still, I think what I like about the fire staff is up close you can just drop a fireball on them. You can use your fire charge, whatever it's called, I can't remember the name of it, and you've got flamethrower. So you've basically got like 3 skills that you can be applying damage up close pretty easily on the fire staff, as well as applying your attacks with the rapier, which also does a lot of damage. I found with well, I'll get into the bow later on, but I found with the bow that you weren't able to do that kind of amount of burst damage up close in a similar vein as the fire staff. What I really liked about the fire staff was the ability to get up close, plant damage into them with the rapier, but at the same time you could just drop a fireball on them really easily, like I just did then. You can flamethrower them to apply a burn and then go into a rapier attacks, and you've even got your, which I keep forgetting the name of the skill, but you know, the flamethrower teleport, which also applies burn, which I'm doing here. So see, it applies a burn to them. So all those attacks just really make the fire staff rapier combo a really good burst kit up close, which I think the bow lacks, unless you're like really good at aiming. And I should add that as the caveat, like I'm not the best aimer in the world, so this is kind of coming from someone who hasn't really played FPS games and doesn't have the best aiming. I'm sure things would be quite different if you were a really good aimer, but I'm not a really good aimer, so I'm relying on my rapier essentially to do a lot of that burst to finish them off. And as I've said, I feel like the fire staff adds to that burst by being able to do the rapier and then adding that extra like fireball on top of them, or the flamethrower on top of them. And usually when you close the gap on them on the rapier, you're able to use the charge or the fire charge, whatever it is, which also bursts them down too. So yeah, I really like the up close fighting with the fire staff. In contrast, I find because you have to actually go into that focus mode with the bow, that really reduces your ability to get quick attacks off up close. Like, it's really good at ranged, and you can see here I do a lot of damage to the guy when I'm actually landing my shots. So if you've got like that FPS aim, you would be able to put a lot of bursts into them. But I find like the problem with the bow is if someone's zigzagging and they're trying to get away with you, if you've kind of got like normal aim, not like pro aim, it's actually really hard to burst them down. And so I'm kind of relying on my rapier to get a lot of that damage and do a lot of that burst. And I sort of use the bow to get those pot shots off in between, which you can see what I'm doing here. So I feel like the fire staff is able to do that better because you're able to just quickly drop a fireball on them. It doesn't require you to have to go into like aiming mode. So you have more tools at your disposal up close than you would than on the bow, because with the bow you have to go into that sort of focus mode, and it kind of opens you up a little and makes you a little bit more vulnerable. And so for those reasons, I just find that with the bow, in order to do good fights, I did better when I kept more distance on the opponent, versus with the fire staff, I did better if I kind of got up and close and personal, like you're basically seeing here. And I just find that in the open world or an OPR, I think the fire staff rapier combo really shines when you're using line of sight. So yeah, when you can use the terrain and line of sight, I feel like, again, that fire staff rapier combo has so many tools in its toolkit to be able to utilize that to the full advantage. So you can use, you've essentially got two teleports, one with the rapier, one with the fire staff. And so it's not about how fast you move, it's about how quickly you can change directions and create a gap. And so a lot of people complain about the fire staff one because there's a bit of a delay, but it's actually not that hard. As long as you can time in your head, you know, when to use the fire staff, you should be able to avoid a grade or a melee person before they reach you. It's just all about timing it. But essentially it allows you to really reposition yourself really quickly to a new line of sight position, which, you know, in the open world or an OPR is really, really important. Especially now when you've got so many range, it's like Fortnite out there. So when you've got so many ranged, you know, muskets, especially bow users right now, you need to be using line of sight, and the fire staff and the rapier allows you to have lots of teleports to be able to do that. Also, it allows you to, when you're using line of sight, so say you're running around a pillar or something, you know, with the fire staff, when they're running behind you, you can sort of quickly turn around and kind of throw a fireball over your shoulder, or get like a flamethrower off, or when you do your fire staff teleport, you can teleport through them to add a burn. All of these things are much harder to do on the bow because of that focus. And so yeah, in terms of just using line of sight and kiteability, I feel like the fire staff is much better, especially when you're using line of sight. In terms of arena, again, I found that the rapier was just, again, it's got all that AoE pressure it can apply, which, I mean, I guess the bow does to a certain extent, but not nearly as much as the fire staff does. And you're also able to get up a lot more closer and personal with the fire staff than you can with the bow. When I was doing arena on the bow, I found it was better to keep my distance, but with the fire staff, you can really comfortably get up close, you can apply some pressure, and you can also attack from distance when you need to, and it's just like really good kiteability on it as well. So, and I just found like when you needed to burst someone down and get that kill, I found the fire staff and the rapier was better to be able to do that for reasons I've already mentioned than the bow rapier was able to. So in this one I'm doing pretty good at sort of trying to help my teammate. At this moment it's a 2v3. I do a pretty good job of staying alive. He's kind of getting all the attacks, so I'm trying to kill someone, but I don't actually manage to pull it off. So we actually lose that round, and then it ends up being a 2-2, but it ends up, well, I'll let you see the ending, and then we'll go into some duels. With the bow in the arena, I tried to get up close and personal like I did with the fire staff and rapier, but I just kept dying. Like I found it actually really hard to get people off me once they decided to attack me, which I wasn't really finding with the fire staff rapier. And so I found that I just did much better on the bow when I kept my distance from the opponent and didn't let them get near me. You can actually see in that video that guy had killed me a lot when I was trying to get up close and personal. You can see that he was coming straight for me to kill me again, but this time I changed tactics and I tried to keep like a bigger distance to make sure they don't get near me. And yeah, it just worked much better. So I found with the bow, you definitely want to keep your distance, and that's where the focus actually helps, because you're able to shoot people much better from a distance on the bow because of that focus. But again, it's not very good focused aim is what I'm talking about. It's just not that good up close. You get caught out a lot easier than you do with the fire staff rapier. So yeah, I mean, just different styles of play. It depends on what you're up to, but when you've got shit aim like me, you're using kind of burst damage up close to be able to get it off in the rapier, again, I felt like the fire staff was just better at that. And yeah, so just to sum up, with the bow compared to the fire staff, even though I've kind of told you already, it's the same with Arena than it is in the open world at Opia. I just found the bow wasn't that good up close, just because you have to keep going into focused aim, and you get caught out easier. I felt like even though you actually move faster with the bow, that extra teleport on the fire staff, if you use it correctly, is just really, really helpful. You're not able to drop down attacks on them up close like you can with the fire staff. So when you're out in the open world and you're not just standing there in a dueling situation, you know, and you're using line of sight, I felt like even though the fire staff does less damage, it actually provides better burst in conjunction with the rapier, because you can drop a fireball on them, do the flamethrower, and then start going into your rapier. With the bow, you can, if you're lucky, you can try to get off an attack, but it's just more difficult. I feel like the bow, and I'm talking from my experience, I bet you if someone has really good aim, it's a different story. But I felt like the bow for me was better when I kept my distance. So yeah, that's kind of the bow. In terms of dueling, I felt like it was pretty close. I think the bow is really good for dueling. You have lots of speed, because the reason the bow is so good for dueling is because they actually have to come and chase you. And so you're able to whittle them down, and because the bow hits pretty hard, you only need to get a few pot shots in on the bow, and you're going to be doing a lot of damage, and they're not allowed to heal, so you really bring them down fast. I felt like the bow was really, really good for dueling, because, you know, no one's using line of sight, no one's sort of running away from you trying to zigzag, but they have to come and attack you. So I felt like you can just get damage off on them on your rapier, get damage off them on your bow, and it works out pretty well. But with the fire staff rapier, it's just the same situation. If anything you can do, I can do better. The fire staff rapier felt to me like it can do everything the bow can. You can get those little pot shots in and they disappear, but with the fire staff you can also just apply all that damage to them. That burst damage that you can't really do as easily on the bow. Like there, I can just apply a flamethrower, I can drop a fireball on top of him. Again, it just felt a bit stronger on the fire staff rapier. So I just thought I'd finish the video off with like a little funny, here I am reading the forums, and you can see the guy has just run down on my screen, and little known to me, he's actually attacking me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm like trying to, this is in the dueling area, but I was flagged up, so he just started attacking me even though he knew I was AFK. So then I'm like, okay, I'll have that fight. So I start fighting, and then his friend joins in a 1v2, so I thought that was a little bit rough. Obviously they're using potions too. FYI, I don't win this fight, but I thought it was a pretty good example of how the fire staff and rapier are really, really good at kiting, because I've got two people here, I'm not able to use line of sight, and there's quite a few times I get them quite low, and I could have maybe killed them if the other person, like right there, I would have finished that guy off if the other guy hadn't tried to CC me. The good old purple, what a Chad, he's trying to come in and help me out a little bit, because you can see what a twat these people are. But, you know, it is what it is. But you see how low they are. I could have finished them off if I hadn't have had, yeah. Either way, just an example of why I feel like the fire staff and rapier is a good combo. I've only been playing this for a week too, so I haven't got the best gear. Felt quite squishy, so I put shooting gear on, and that helped a lot, but I can't help but feel I need to get refreshing gear. So, and I need to get my rapier, it's still below 600 gear score because of my expertise, so there's a lot I need to improve on. But in short, after this week, I feel the winning combo for me was definitely fire staff rapier. Now, I know the bow is good, and with the right aim, with the person with the right aim, I think bow would be devastating, but I'm not that person. And I just feel in that situation, with the burst from the rapier, and able to get it close, the fire staff rapier is just much better. So look forward to some rapier fire staff videos